Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the high-grade Gundam Zangan from the Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans app game and movie, Urdr's Hunt. This right here is a mobile suit that doesn't use any handheld weapons whatsoever. No short range, no long range, it entirely uses those giant pincer-like shield pliers around on its back for all of its overpowered, huge, crushing attacks. Anyways, always this video right here would not have been possible without those absolutely phenomenal people over at Afilliate Japan, so I will throw a link down there in the description if you do want some model kits of your own, but I think maybe it's about time to get this thing built and reviewed. Alright, so jumping right on into the unboxing, and it is nice to see the typical looking Iron-Blooded Orphans box yet again. This is 2 in a row because we saw the Monkey Roadie not that long ago. We've got an awesome art right there of the Zangan and its massive shield pliers around on the back. Box art looking beautiful. Around on the sides then we've got all the info all the stuff we're going to be seeing inside of the box. So there's the Zangan up in the air with those big shield pliers. Some nice poses out of it, and I will mention this is a Gundam frame right here, so more than likely we will have to do a little bit more out of box than your standard snap build when it comes to the stability. There is what the finished kit will look like out of box and the actual art of the Zangan itself. Now I'm assuming we're going to have some color accuracy issues with some aspects like the hands right there where we see the color separated fingers. I can't imagine we're going to get that in a high grade IBO kit, but we are about to find out. So opening it up, in here we got 1, 2, 3, 4 bags of runners, which is quite a few for a high-grade Gundam kit. We've got the manual then telling us everything about the Gundam Zangan itself. I will throw that on the screen so you can read that yourself, as well as the pilot Land Braun. Around the back, we've got all of the information about the various weapons and equipment. Again, I will throw this up on the screen so you can pause it at your own leisure to learn all you want to learn about the Gundam frame, screw fists, tactics, shield pliers, units. Besides that though, this is your usual kind of fold out pamphlet style high grade manual. And even though we do have a lot of bags in here, there is just 9 runners, not including the polycap. So a standard amount of plastic, and it looks like we're not going to be using the entire Gundam frame in here, so that will be interesting to see how it works out. So when it does come to the plastic in here, there isn't really anything too kind of interesting to point out. This is a kit that does feature a polycap build, so we do have some polycaps in here, same as we would have seen with all of the Gundam frames so far. Again, not the most secure build. When it comes to the armor in here, we do have some very large plates, so this is predominantly in a navy blue, so maybe this might mark up a bit, I guess we'll see. Navy blue parts do tend to kind of show a lot of stress marks when cutting out, so you gotta take a little bit more care while building. Some light blue plastic in here to go with the navy blue. So we've got a Gundam frame in here, which we've been seeing all the way since 2016. This is Gundam Frame 4. These have always loosened up, especially around the Ahab wave reactors, this whole section right here. However, I've noticed on this brand new runner for this kit right here, which is labeled Gundam Zangan 2025, we actually have that part remolded in here, so it seems like for the first time ever, we may actually have a fixed Gundam frame. A lot of the other parts right here are the legs and whatnot, so it seems like this has got a bit of an overhaul. So yeah, sadly the hands in here aren't two-tone like the box was showing, so at least with this kit you're going to have to be doing some detailing up while you build or afterwards in order to get it color accurate. The A runner here split into a bunch of extra colors we haven't seen on the rest of the runners, including a pinky red, which reminds me of the Gremory, what looks to me to be somewhat of an off-white, and we do have some yellow in here too. Lastly then, we do have a sheet of stickers. We've got the usual kind of Gundam eyes, some white detailing, as well as that emblem for, I think, on the chest. Again, not too bad, but we'll see how the overall color separation is once complete. Alright, so first off, jumping right on into the build, and as usual, I'm going to be starting from the legs up. So here is a completed leg, and even though it does share some parts with the previous Gundam frame, some parts have been changed too. Not sure how it's turned out just yet, but the finished leg definitely looks nice, and we've got some nice layered gray coming from underneath right there. Otherwise, simple and effective. In the foot, we've got the usual kind of cylinder for the ankle, but the rest of the foot section has been changed for this particular Gundam. We've got a toe bend in here, we've got a polycap for that joint. The toe segment is double layered, so it does mean we have a nice combination of grey and blue. The toe then attaches via that polycap onto the foot, and that is what the foot looks like once complete. The lower leg is different for this kit, so it has been changed for the Zangan. The knee is exactly the same as we would have seen on the Gundam Frame 4. That right there is a double jointed knee, closes up like that, and then it's just time for some layering up of the armor. The polycap hip joint right here is directly from the Gundam frame, so that does mean this leg will be compatible with other Gundam frames. The rest of the armor just builds up like so. It's layer after layer after layer. We do have double layered aspects to those little side fin armored sections, so overall it does build up nicely, thick, and in the end looks nice. The foot then just pops on like so, and that right there is what it looks like complete. So jumping now down to the waist, and although a lot of this is a brand new design, what I'm slotting in here, that is the classic Gundam frame waist hole. So it does mean this is still compatible even though we've got new parts. Polycaps for the side skirts, I presume, rear piece, butt extension, attaches in the back. Hip joints are from the old school Gundam frame, all locks together. Color separation for the front skirtings, chop them in half, lock on like so. Some giant dual layered butt flaps, so gray underneath, blue armor up top. And this section right here locks them both together. That is huge. Nice design. Those then pop into those polycap joints, so they are not side skirts like I thought they'd be. They're absolutely giant butt flap armors. Overall, I have to say I'm really impressed with this model kit so far. It's a lot more sturdy than we would have seen from a lot of high-grade Gundam frames in the past, and it's looking pretty huge so far. So now moving on up to the torso, and one thing I can say is there is zero of the old Gundam frame here whatsoever. So the Zangan right here has a completely newly designed torso to it, so it means we won't have the old school droop. For example, this right here is not split in half like one of the older kits we would have seen. Basically the Achilles heel or the Achilles waist of the entire Gundam frame line. Next up, we're moving on to the Ahab wave reactors. This is the new design then that attaches on into it, so it just pops on in like so and clips and clicks into position. That's nice. The other side then pops into that particular joint, locking it in its fully open, fully clicked in position, which is very impressive. Flipping around to the back now, we also have a brand new design for the shoulder joints. They pop on in there just like so, big and awesome. And that locks into the back with the Ahab wave reactor rear segment. So a brand new design. That is nice to see. Can't wait to see how it works out. The neck joint and the joint for the waist are the same polycaps we would have seen before, so this will be compatible with older Gundam frames. Some nice layering of armor for the chest piece right here. Splash of color giving us that Gundam Gremory vibe. Neck armor, once again, very Gundam Gremory coded. And then you attach that section you just built onto the Ahab wave reactors, just like so. So it's almost floating away from the body like this. A very unique and very mechanical looking design. Once again, the compatibility is maintained here on the back here with those sections which are the same as the attachment points for every Gundam frame so far. But now we've got this additional part which attaches on to mount the rear armor onto. And that right there is what we get. Absolutely beautiful. And once it is complete, there isn't really a whole lot of moving parts. This section here is on a ball joint, so that can move around. And we do have the hip joint down here, which actually has a decent range of motion. Looking good. So moving on up to the arms, and I do have one of them complete so far. This is impressive. It's thick, it's powerful looking, and the detail overall is quite nice on this. I will mention one down point, and it's the same down point across the kit so far. The navy blue plastic does mark a lot when you are nipping it out. Even if I try to be careful, it does mark, so I recommend snipping from a bit of a distance and filing off the nub to try and get a nice, stressless, clean finish. Anyway, when it comes to the articulation, we've got one big, massive arm here with some incredible armor around back. The only thing reused from the frame is that tiny little piece, that one right there. Otherwise, this is a brand new frame for the arm as well. Very, very nice. Even this section right here, impressive. We've got a gray mechanical back on that to go perfectly with the armored front and a little bit of gray poking through from underneath. So that's the kind of plastic layering you don't really see usually on an iron-blooded Orphans kit. Pretty cool. So yeah, when it does come to the build up of the arms, this bit right here is the only thing off the classic Gundam frame. The rest of everything here is brand new, and gone is the simplicity of the past. This is quite the build. We have a 2-point bend, that's the bend that's right there, and then this one which attaches on. As you can see, this is visceral and awesome in the iron-blooded sort of way, but at the same time, a lot more realized than the older Gundam frames we've seen. Some nice piping detail, second half, upper arm armor, rear forearm armor, side of forearm armor. The hands in here are pretty cool because they are actual fists. There is no hole in them because this kit does not have anything it holds onto and never actually holds onto anything. However, it does mean the compatibility with other equipment out there is not present, so it can't hold on to anything at all. Moving down to the shoulder armor, we combine 2 pieces, a keyhole locking segment, 2 tones of blue armor. The shoulder joint then attaches on in there, locks in, armor panel, impressive armor sandwich here, mechanical gray on the inside, armor blue on the outside. This piece of armor then attaches on via pretty much like a big C-clip so it can rock forward and back like so. The final assembly of the arm is pretty interesting. That's the ball joint that attaches into the body. We have a ball joint then that attaches in here, so it's a double ball jointed arm, and the fist then pops in like so. And that right there is what it looks like complete. Again, huge, armored, and awesome. So last up when it comes to the mech itself, not including the huge big pincers, is the head. Now this is extremely insect-like, which I guess that's what the mobile suit is going for. We've got a tiny little recessed Gundam face in the middle there, some pincers around front, and some huge, almost wing-like segments on the back flaring out and back. This looks pretty badass. As for the build, you start off with the eye sticker. It's pretty small, but it lines up really easily because of the way it recesses in. This eye section right here just pops on into the upper head. Add on some more stickers here. You do have a choice. I went with the 2 separate white ones. They're nice, they're recessed, or you can go with a whole piece to make it a little bit more easier on you, but it won't look as nice. You slide the first little kind of pair of V-fin antennas into the front of the head, attaches onto what we just built, and you attach on the back of the head. Next up, you add a splash of that nice pink color as the Gundam beard section, a little bit of white where is the pincers, and then you attach the head on from the top, and those big wing-like segments onto the side. I will admit right here, I did cut off some safety flags from up here at the end, as well as on these little sharp sections right here. So those do have safety flags out of box. Onto the assembly now of the mech itself, and this is absolutely nothing like any Iron-Blooded Orphans kit I have ever built. The joints are the only thing that is shared when it comes to the frame. That will be, you know, the same, exactly same parts and compatible with what we would have built before, but besides that, this is pretty much all brand new. Now, the joints already feel a little bit Iron-Blooded Orphans spongy, but the rest of it not so bad so far. It's actually kind of hilarious that there is a Gundam frame inside of all this mass. Those nice new shoulders. Yeah, it's really good that Bandai redesigned the upper body and the waist for this because it has some massive, massive limbs. So far, so good. A really unique Gundam design without a doubt. Take a look at that. Pretty cool. Anyway, finally onto probably the biggest aspect of it, those big pincer shields for around back. So lastly then, when it does come to the Gundam Zangan right here, is those big shield pincer units, and these are very nicely designed. First off, we've got arms attaching them on. It's a ball joint attaching here. This will attach onto the rear skirting, and we've got multiple points of articulation here, so these will move around quite a bit. When it comes to the actual pincers themselves, they can move out just like so. We've got a gold injection blade along the edge, and then we've got opening segments right here. So that is what they're like opened up. Again, these are seamless, strong, and just move perfectly. The build here is quite simple. You just attach a whole bunch of moving elements together. There are so many joints built up into the arm of this, and they're good and strong too. Color separation along the length as well, so clips in like that. And as for the pincer itself, we've got articulated segment, armor, bladed segment, blade in, pincer color separation, pincer articulation. It closes up, attaches in as the lower jaw of the pincer. Then you just close it up, build the lower section, lower blade, and then you build on the lower articulation. That looks a little bit like that. Closes up like so. A bit of gray color separation in this big piece right here. Now I think all of these parts are meant to be in gray, not just that one right there. So you may have to do some detailing up. And finally that just attaches in like that, closes up like that, fold it up, and finally attach it onto the arm like that. Finally then you just attach them into the back of Gundam Zangan like that. And if it wasn't big enough already, now it's just absolutely colossal. Did you know that all quality improvements to the channel, from cameras, lighting, audio, and even editing, have come directly from the supporters over on Patreon? So if you'd like to help support the channel, watch my videos at least 12 hours earlier, and see behind the scenes posts, Then check out my Patreon, link down there in the description. So jumping straight on into the aesthetics, and that right there is what the high-grade Gundam Zangan looks like out of the box snapped together with a tiny little bit of panel lining, but otherwise it's pretty much the straight build. And this right here is one thick beast of a Gundam frame. We've seen quite a few different high-grade Gundam frames to this date, and this one right here might just be the bulkiest, biggest, and craziest one so far. So yeah, this is the kit, what it looks like pretty much straight built. I did do a little bit of panel lining, but otherwise this is what you will get out of box. Now I will admit, even though the build right here is an updated build, there is some parts that are still a little bit loose, like the old school ankles, hips, and waist. So it's kind of weird that Bandai, kind of re-engineered so much of this kit and then just left some old parts there to kind of get a little bit loose. So these little parts right here, I'm kind of propping it up with them so it doesn't fall over all the time. Well, they're good and strong. This doesn't actually really fall over. It's just kind of hard to pose with these attached on. So I'm going to take them out of the equation just for a little while so we can take a look at the kind of core of the Zangan itself first. So first up, when it comes to the size comparison, even though the Gundam Zangan is a pretty big unit, it's just slightly taller than your average Gundam. So it's big out the way, it's got super long, bulky arms, but height-wise, just a little taller than average. Moving through some more kits, there it is side by side with the high-grade G-Quacks, the high-grade Monkey Rody, high-grade Gundam Barbatos, high-grade Gundam Gremory, high-grade Hajiroboshi, high-grade Strike Freedom, and high-grade Gundam Ariel. Overall, when it does come to the aesthetics of the high-grade Gundam Zangan right here, this is a very hefty mobile suit, really long arms, thick, huge legs, and a lot of overlapping armor plates. It almost has a little bit of the aesthetics of the high-grade Helmwig Rheincar, just with a little bit more of a angled, armor-plated look to it. This goes the same around back. We've got some massive butt flap plates, and overall this is armored, and when it does come to the high grade itself, you can see at first glance that it is of a lot higher a quality than we would have seen with any high grade before with the Gundam moniker. When it's thrown down side by side with the art, as you can see, the proportions, the color separation, all of that good stuff is pretty much 100% compared to the official art, and that does even come down to those nicely color separated gray sections popping through from underneath the armor. So we do have two little stickers in the top of the head, you can see them right there, the little white ones. And speaking of the included stickers, this right here is what we get. Now I have used 3 of these, so that is for the eyes, as well as those 2 white sections. This other one there, that number 4, that is for doing the exact same thing with those stickers on the head, so I didn't use that. And 5 is a little bit of an emblem or icon for using on the chest, which I just thought wouldn't really look that good. That does pop right here in the cockpit section, or at least what I assume is the cockpit section, so that is up to you whether you use it or not. But besides that, overall the head is looking nice. We do have an eye sticker in there, but some nice gray, actually color separated under the eyes. It is very, very nice to look at. Some other beautiful small detailing is the piping that is molded into the arms. Very, very nice and a lot thicker than we would have seen on previous Gundam frames. And as I mentioned, I did panel line this a little bit here and there, but when it comes to overall panel lining opportunities, it's just kind of little dots here and there, not too much really. When it comes to any kind of unique features or unique plastics like clear parts, pearlescent, metallic, UV reactive or anything like that, it's just standard plastic on here, so nothing too over the top. Simple, effective. When it comes to the model kit sins, aka the nubs, seam lines, and mold lines, when I was building this, it did seem like the navy blue plastic was nubbing up quite a bit. You do see some here and there. I tried to keep it as minimal as possible, but I did really go with the 2 snips only. You're going to have to kind of snip at a little bit of a distance with plastic like this and then kind of file or sand them away not to get these little kind of stress marks here and there. So that does happen a little bit, but it is not the worst. When you see from any kind of distance, you're not going to be noticing anything like that. As for molds and seams, as far as I can see, there's absolutely nothing critical whatsoever. Didn't really notice many or any while I was building it up, so no mold lines. The armor is nicely kind of designed, so you're not really seeing any seams on there either. So overall, it seems to escape from that sort of thing. There isn't even any seam lines through the tops of the shoulders. This has been very, very nicely designed overall. The only thing I will mention, or should I say even mention, is that, well, they did use some of the old joints, which could be a little bit stronger considering all this kit does have to hold up. But that's something to talk about a little bit later in the articulation. Anyway, finally there's that full 360-degree spin, so you can see every angle and every aspect of this for yourself, just in case I forgot to mention something about it. Again, a very premium Gundam frame right here. We've got parts layering, aka gray parts coming from underneath. Some of the heavier armor actually has gray parts sandwiched onto the bottom of it, so it actually looks mechanical as opposed to just big pieces of plastic that kind of look a little bit cheap from underneath. Overall, very nice. Color separation is pretty much 95% from what I can see, and the whole rejiggering of the inner frame means it does look nice when you do see into some frame aspects. I have to say, I'm more impressed with this kit than I thought it would be. I thought it'd be just another kind of classic Gundam frame, a little bit loose and a little bit hollow when it comes to the undersides of armors. That is not the case. Bandai went all out on it, but as for something that this kit may lack a bit, well, let's move right into that. That is the accessories. So jump now on into the accessories, and here's absolutely everything that comes with the high-grade Gundam Zangan, and absolutely everything might be the wrong phrase to use because there's not a whole lot in here, as you can see. We get a pair of alternate hands, and that is it. This may be a positive, may be a negative to you, but let's check them out. So when it does come to the hands in here, we do have two types. First up is a pair of fists like what we're seeing right here. Now these are just standard fists like I've mentioned before. There are no actual holes running through them, so it cannot hold onto a weapon. Overall, nice design, unique color, and looking good. The next set of hands we have in here are these widespread ones which are a little bit flexed towards the top. These are a nice design. They're definitely visceral and can be used in a whole bunch of different ways. To make it look like it's grabbing onto something, all the way down to nice flexed arm poses. Looking good. Swapping them out is super simple. It's the usual kind of ball joint. You pull it off like that and pop on the alternative one just like that. Both of these hand designs in here are pretty cool because at the same time they're kind of the same, while at the same time they're kind of different. They both kind of have a flexed powerfulness to them. This is the exact same pose twice right here with the two different hands, and even though it kind of has the same feel, it's a little bit on the different side too, if you do get what I mean. Both powerful, both cool. So yeah, the Zangan here doesn't really come with too much inside the box, so let's talk compatibility a little bit. In behind what's going on here, we do have this standard Iron-Blooded Orphans style backpack, so it does mean you will be able to use backpacks with other kits with this particular new torso, but maybe some stuff might get in the way a little bit. When it comes to action-based compatibility, down below we've got your standard 3mm hole, so this should work with your favorite style of action base or stand. I'm going to go with this one, which is the Simple Stand by Good Smile Company, and even though it is a bulky kit, it has absolutely no issues. So even though there are no other accessories in here, I'm going to talk a little bit right now about these absolutely awesome weapons around back, which are the Shield Plier unit. Now the only kind of down point about these is the fact that all of these particular little kind of circular sections here are meant to be in this grey color, so it does mean you will have to give those a little bit of a color in if you do want them to look accurate. Besides that, they are pretty awesome. We've got the shield mode right here, where they're absolutely thick, huge, and bladed along the edge, and they can open into the plier mode by folding out like so, and the end section opens just like that with some nice teeth inside. Kind of like a little bit of a mix of the wrench mace or the chainsaw mace from the Barbato 6th form with a little bit of the kind of sub-arms from the Rebake, so a cool combination. When it does come to getting these into a little bit of a pose, at first I did find it a little bit on the awkward side. Now this is due to the overall complexity of the amount of actual moving parts in here as opposed to the kit working against you or being a little bit, well, high-grade-y, if you get what I mean. These are very well-designed arms, and you kind of just have to take some time to get kind of used to which way they actually move to get them around to the front for a nice attacking pose like this right here. Because at first it seemed a little bit counterintuitive to me that you actually have to move them upside down and up to get them around. You actually use the grey armor on back to move them up into the air to get the actual length out of the mace grabby part moving forward over the Gundam, if you get what I mean. Actually, I'll do it right now so you can see. So when it does kind of come to getting these into position for attacking, you actually need to rotate the arm to be pointing upwards just like so. You can get the arm up and around over the body, because we do have a lot more articulation up here to get the claw where you want it. So once it's flipped around, of course you need to deploy that claw. Very simple to do, works nicely. Then you can actually use this part here to invert that up and over into your nice kind of claw position. And that right there then is what you get. And this adds a whole ton of mass that we wouldn't have been seeing, say, during the size comparison earlier on. So if you actually do throw your average size Gundam into the mix right here, you can see it is quite a small profile compared to what we're seeing with the Zangan. But yeah, overall the claws are quite impressive. You can get them into some nice position for some other Gundam or mobile suit mangling poses, and overall they just look ridiculously cool. Next up now onto the articulation, and when it comes to the usual comment on the build here, there is a little bit of the old school IBO rattle. I do believe this is down to using the older iron-blooded Orphans joints. For example, these arms are on brand new joints and you'll get nothing out of it. It's just kind of the hips and the waist that have been reused that have just kind of added to that kind of bounce, especially down in the hips, sadly. Otherwise, it does quite well, and overall I haven't been having any issues with it falling out of a pose, and that is straight built without any modifications, which is it's a win for an IBO kit. Anyway, onto the usual pose. So when it comes to getting this into the usual pose, the upper body is an absolute 10 out of 10, and the lower body is probably more of a 4 or 5 out of 10. That's kind of the way this kit is. It's got a brilliant upside, the downside not so great. Overall, we've got a lot of limited joints at the lower side, and we've got some fantastic, nice joints at the upper side. I lost a bit of a shoulder bit while trying to get the arms around the wrong way entirely, but I realized there is 2 nice joints. You can bring them in underneath the armpit zone to swing them in front of the body. Overall, it works out great. Again, upper body great, lower body not so great. Anyway, that right there is what we get out of the kit. The upper body is just so amazing. The arms on this kit just look absolutely beautiful, the way they bend just like so. They're big, they're massive, they've got a big blade punchy part at the end, and then down at the lower legs, well, they're just very old school IBO feeling. A lot of the joints are directly from older Gundam frames, and the only thing that's kind of new is what kind of builds onto the armor for the lower leg right here. So as you can see, the ankle very limited, the knee isn't too bad, but we got blockage up here stopping us from getting it any lower into a bit of a lunge. Anyway, let's go through all of the joints one by one. Alright, so checking out all of the articulation piece by piece from the head down. When it comes to the neck in here, this is the usual polycap neck, but you do get quite a bit out of it, so you can angle the head up nicely for flight poses. As for the side to side, it does pretty well as well, and the whole collared section in here is on a ball joint, so it does move ever so slightly in every direction to keep it out of the way. Moving down to the torso, and we do have that typical kind of 2-joint IBO ab crunch. The upper section much better than we ever would have seen before, rock solid, and won't end up kind of loosening up inside when you repeatedly do this. As for the ball joint down below, this is a little bit looser than I'd like it to be, and you get all of your rotation here, but most of the movement is in the upper joint. At the shoulders, we've got this nice little moving flap. In here, we do have a double ball joint, so it means we have a ball joint in the shoulder and a secondary ball joint for the arm right here, which is quite nice. You can move the arm up incredibly, incredibly high, bring it down extremely, extremely low, and overall, it is nice. It can be a little bit awkward kind of working between the 2 joints, but not too bad. That also means you have 2 points of rotation, so you got this one right here, as well as a second one right here. So a lot in the arms, very nicely designed. Partial rotation right here, blocked by the armor. We've got a very nice double jointed elbow. I popped it off just so you can see it a little better. That is the original bend. There is the second, and usual ball joint wrist. Again, that double ball joint up here is incredible. Just look at how high you can get those arms up. And it always kind of works in a very nice anatomical kind of way instead of looking a little bit awkward. Very nice. Down to the waist unit, we've got flapping flaps. The butt flap is mounted into the side skirt, so this can move in a very unique kind of way. It moves up and out like a little kind of scissors back here to move it out of the way. It can move back ever so slightly and flared out to keep it out of the way of whatever you're going to be doing. When it comes to the kicks, there it is all the way up to the front, so very nice. Out to the back can be a bit blocked, but of course you can move that flap to get a bit more. When it comes to the splits, you can get the entire splits out of it. Almost a full rotation at the upper leg. Quite a decent bend at the knee. And the ankles here are a bit on the limited side. So this is the usual ball joint that moves around like so. We have the barrel here, so it does mean you can actually bend them side to side a lot. And we do have a toe bend that points down the way, not so much up the way, mainly just down for those in-air flight poses. Don't put it in your ear. So yeah, overall a decently posable kit. Again, the legs could be a whole lot nicer, maybe even a little bit longer, but the upper body is absolutely fantastic. Oh yeah, one more look at these guys. So first up, when it does come to the arm, we've got a little bit of a peg here so it can rotate in the butt flap. We've got a nice joint right here, like a little hinge, followed by another hinge right here. This one, which can move all the way back and all the way forward like that. Another hinge up top, moving it like so. A hinge and a ball joint combination up here. So the hinge moves like so. The ball joint, of course, can get you rotating this all of the way around. When it comes to the actual shield pliers section, we've got 2 points of moving out like that. We then have this little segment which pulls out like so, and the actual pliers section itself. So this has a lot of movement to it, almost like a big mecha crab claw. So anyway, that right there is it for the review of the high-grade Gundam Zangan, and this one was definitely an odd one, but for the most part pretty awesome. This is X Gold tier. Now when I have to throw in a whole load of half points, you know it's an oddball of a kit. It's got some great aspects which have a weird kind of parallel that makes them at the same time a little bit bad, but overall it wins out. Aesthetically, that's probably the simplest thing to talk about. I give this 4 out of 5 because it is absolutely beautiful. It's pretty much line art accurate, color accurate pretty much 90%, and definitely 100% color accurate from the front. We've got some nice layering of parts, great detail coming through from underneath. We do not have color separated eyes, but the eyes on this are tiny, 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 but the rest of the color on the head, body, everything, most of it is there. And again, it is the parts layering that makes it look so fancy for an Iron-Blooded Orphans kit. This is Iron-Blooded Orphans next level. When it does come to the articulation, this is where it starts to get into the kind of polarizing kind of aspect. The upper body on this kit is absolutely phenomenal. I'm so impressed by the way Bandai has retooled the upper torso, and the arms on this are incredibly nicely designed and beautiful to look at. The shield pliers around back, Bandai pulled out all of the stops. They could have kept them in one pose and have a kind of parts formable to the other, but they're fully posable all through the arms, all the way to the pincers at the tips. What really does let this kit down though is the legs. They're almost a little bit on the small vestigial kind of side, like they're just hanging there. They don't pose up too well. They feel classic Iron-Blooded Orphans compared to the upgraded torso, and they'd let the kit down a little bit. This is one you're going to be keeping up in the air all the time, so that doesn't really matter so much, but it would have been nice to see just something a little bit fancier in there. When it does come to the accessories in here, again, this is kind of one of those yeah but situations. There's next to nothing in here besides a couple of hands. But the yeah but is, you could kind of consider the pliers around back almost like accessories. They are its weapons. They aren't necessarily part of the mech itself, but at the same time, they're not really accessories, are they? It's also not very compatible with other accessories, so no standard backpack adapter on this kit, and no hands for holding onto stuff. So, you know, take it as it is, I guess. Lastly then, when it does come to the build here, I did boost this up an extra point or a point and a half because this is one of the nicest Gundam frames there is. No, scratch that. This is the best high-grade Gundam frame there is because they've fixed all the issues of the past. Again, the legs do have a lot of the old Gundam frame inside, but it doesn't really dominate the legs. But the upper body, the arms, what's going around back, it's actually solid, and we've got double layering to the armor in some places, so it does look premium. Like the butt flaps look great from the front because they're not just big old hollow sections. Overall, when it does come to Iron-Blooded Orphans kits, I kind of hope we're going to see more in future based on this kind of nice build. We'll be sad that if we didn't see any more Gundam frames ever again, that this was the only one that got the premium effect. I would love to see a Barbatos 2.0. People would buy it up like hotcakes. A new Gundam Barbatos Lupus and Lupus Rex with this kind of build, I would love it. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. I got mine here through Hobby Link Japan, link in the description if you want to get some model kits of your own. As always, make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews, and I'll see you next time. Once again, as usual, I cannot finish this video right here without special thanks to those people over on the channel memberships as well as over on Patreon, including Dismas, Caleb Engelhart, Joe, RG59061, Scotty Thomas, Simon, and Van Fawn.